Every fighter is geared to be 25-0. And before I go any further, I'm not casting aspersions on anybody on the dais up here. These guys are all top-line fighters and have proven it both as amateurs and as pros. But a lot of these other fighters, and there are more undefeated fighters today than ever in the history of boxing, a lot of these fighters actually make it because when they get to the acid test, the guy in the other corner came up the same way. So we don't always see the best fighters on television. What we see is the fighters with the best records. Now, Gabriel Rosado got, for God's sake, he lost to Chris Gray, who's 13-17. He lost to Josh Onyango, who's 15-19. I mean, he said to me after we got together permanently a couple years ago and he'd lost a majority decision to Derek Ennis, he said, Russell, I need somebody to protect me from myself because I'll fight anybody anywhere. So this fight came up, I said, great, you know, we'll make it at 158, catch weight, 158, give you a little break, even though I've never been a big proponent of the difference in size. And then he comes in and says, why are we fighting at 158? He said, I don't want any excuses when we win the title. I don't want Golovkin saying that we made him take off 2 pounds. I said, don't you want to think about this for a little while? He said, no, I've already thought about it. Fighters get better by fighting better fighters. So I want to thank HBO for looking outside the box and inside the numbers. And I can never forget what Teddy Brenner told me years ago. And Teddy Brenner, I'm sure you know, was the greatest matchmaker in the history of our sport. He said, Russell, forget the records. He says, there's only 2 types of fighters, those who can fight and those who can't. And just remember that. So I'd like to introduce an old school trainer that none of you you've rarely heard about. I liken him to the new show on television, the Amish Mafia. He is not Lebanon Levi, but he did learn under one of the most underrated trainers of his time, Wesley Mozon, who, by the way, by the time he was 19 years old, had knocked out Bob Montgomery and fought a draw with Ike Williams. And Billy learned from Wesley Mozon, and he is one of the most unknown and underrated trainers today, Billy Briscoe.
Thank you, everybody. You know, when Gabi got an opportunity to take this fight, we didn't even think twice about it because, you know, Gabi dares to be different. He dares to take the road less traveled. He's a throwback fighter. You know, me and him, we're not old in chronological age, but in boxing mentality, we take from them the old school masters. You know, and they used to always tell me when I was a kid, first thing you got to remember in boxing is you never let a man's name, reputation, or record beat you. If anything, you let the man beat you, and then you do everything in your power to make sure that don't happen. And believe me, we've done everything in our power to make sure that won't happen. Gabi is very underrated in his boxing IQ. This man, his boxing IQ is unbelievable. His regular IQ is unbelievable as well. But his boxing IQ, man, he can analyze and break down fights, break down fighters. It's unbelievable, man. It's an uncanny ability to see things, little minute things, but as we all know in boxing, it's all the little things that come together that makes a big difference. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, why would you give up the #1 rating in the world in the IBF, you know, the K9? It's pretty simple, because Gabi dares to be great, basically, like I just said. You know, and if we were to beat K9, people say, oh, man, the guy's 38 years old, and, you know, he ain't been that active, and da-da. But when we fight Golovkin, believe me, Golovkin's the real deal. He is, or they say he is, probably more. But at the end of the day, you know, he's a fighter, and all fighters are beatable. And we believe that we have the proper formula. You know, because you plan your fight and you fight your plan, but when all else fails, you know, you got to make the adjustment. The one that can make the adjustment 9 out of 10 times is going to be the one that pulls off the win. Of course, Golovkin got Abel Sanchez in his corner, tremendous trainer. Tremendous, done beautiful work with Terry Norris and a lot of other guys. So he has help in the corner to make adjustments too, but I gotta be honest with you. We're gonna win this fight. I don't put prediction on rounds, but I don't see it going the distance. You know, because it's gonna be like, remember years ago, the cartoon when the Tasmanian Devil fought somebody and they seen the big whirlwind? Well, we're gonna see a big whirlwind on HBO come Saturday night. But the only difference is when the whirlwind's on, the only one's gonna be standing is gonna be my guy. Thank you.
So one of the women who works in my office says, you got to stop calling him Gabe. He doesn't like to be called Gabe. I said, what does he like to be called? He likes to be called Gabby, and after reading all the press for this fight, I understand why. Gabriel Rosado.
First and foremost, I want to give God all the praise and the glory for this opportunity. I want to thank the champion for giving me this opportunity, and HBO, Russell Peltz, and my trainer for mentoring me and making me the fighter that I am today. Like Billy said, I turned down my #1 spot at 54 against K9 because, you know, greater risk, bigger reward. And I'm just extremely excited about this fight. You know, I came up the hard way. Nothing was given to me, nothing was handed to me. You know, I had to learn on the job, fighting guys with great amateur backgrounds, and I was just learning. But, you know, you learn from adversity. Adversity is going to make you or break you, and it made me. You know, I'm extremely confident that I'll be victorious on the 19th. I train extremely hard, and I know this guy has the will to win, and so do I, but I think at the end of the day, this fight is going to determine on who's the smarter guy and who can make the better adjustments. And I'm confident that I will. And I just, I want to thank my mother who's right there in the back, who's been my #1 supporter. Mom, I love you. My father, got my brothers out here. And I want to give a shout out to Puerto Rico. Le quiero dar un saludo a Puerto Rico porque aunque no nací en la isla, boricua de corazón soy. Esta pelea se la dedico a Puerto Rico y a todos los latinos. Thank you, God bless.
Thank you, Gabi. There was 2 events that were alluded to that really made a lot of news with this particular fight. First, he did give up the mandatory position, a guaranteed title fight against the K9 Budridge at 154. And secondly, which was really, I think, pretty much unprecedented, the agreed upon weight was a catch weight. And as Russell said, he didn't want any excuses. So that really shows, that's a credit to his willingness to fight for the middleweight championship. With that being said, I want to introduce someone that we think is the best middleweight in the world today. I don't think that's boasting. It's just a matter of him showing it on television. I think you'll see his skills on Saturday night. Gennady Golovkin, you have to excuse, this will be his 4th language he's speaking in English. So he's still learning English, but he speaks Kazakh, Russian, and German. And so he's going to do this press conference in English. Gennady, can I come on?
Good afternoon, everybody. I happy to stay here in New York City. Thank you very much, Madison Square Garden family. Special thank you very much for HBO team. No. Muchas gracias for Gabriel, for your team. I think it's a very great fight for us, for him, for me. Thank you, everybody. Good to see you guys.